Benefits. Benefits to this approach of ministry teams that we're talking about here. First of all, greater creativity. When you get, the more heads you get involved in plotting the course and coming up with a strategy to accomplish the responsibility, the ministry description in the booklet, the more heads you get involved in that, the more likelihood is there's going to be creativity. If the team leader is the one that just always is making the decisions of what's going to be done and how it's going to be done, and then just kind of like cards in a card game, just dishes them out to the different members and saying, here, you get the queen of spades, you get the jack of diamonds, you get the two of hearts, and that's your job. And if that approach is taken, things, the likelihood of things kind of getting stagnant and stale in that ministry are pretty likely, over time. But when we function the way ministry teams are to function, we're creating an atmosphere where the creativity can rise to the surface. And the thing that goes hand in hand with that, fresh ideas. There's going to be some fresh ideas. And not just for the reasons I just got done stating, but because every February we erase names and we're giving people opportunities and doing a church-wide effort of getting people to sign up, because each part needs to do its work. Remember Ephesians 4:16? Each person needs to be engaged. And so as we plug that and people sign up, there will be a little bit of a turnover. You'll have a couple additional people. Hopefully they'll be serving on your team. And with them comes the likelihood there's going to be some fresh ideas that comes along with it. And that's a good thing. We don't want to be in the maintenance mindset in our ministry teams. We're always looking at how we can improve what it is that we're doing. And if you always just rely on your own head, I don't know how your head works, but mine's been stale now for a while. It kind of goes in spurts. I'll get a bright idea and stuff, but every now and then, I don't know, how often do you think, Brad? Every 6 years I get a new idea? Once a week? Okay. All right. He's a little more optimistic. But fresh ideas. If we're doing the ministry teams in the way that they have been designed to be, there's going to be more creativity. There's going to be fresh ideas. Here's a good verse to go with that. Proverbs 18:15 says, the intelligent man is always open to new ideas. In fact, he looks for them. Okay, so if you want to be smart, be looking for new ideas. Don't just stick to the old ones all the time. All right, so number 3, as far as benefits, mutual support. We have teams, and that is for encouragement. And if I could go back to, the whole football analogy again, when someone gets burnt on a play, if you paid attention, whether your team was the Chiefs or, God forbid, some other team like the Broncos. But if you had a team, Becky, that was a jab at you, okay? But if you have a team, you've probably noticed something if you pay attention. Like when some cornerback gets burnt on a play, and there's a good chance their head's going to be hanging because they feel like they're letting their team down. But what happens? What do some of the other players do? I mean, if it's a well-functioning team, some of the other players come and help them to pick their head up and say, hey, come on. And it just happened this time. We know you can do well, and we're counting on you. So, keep your head in the game, and, that whole thing. Mutual support. See, the same thing is true within the teams, the ministry teams of the church. This is why we don't have ministries and just let everybody be lone rangers and say, Gary, this is your responsibility. Stay in your corner and do it. Bob, you get over there and you do this and this. And don't talk to too many people. Be a lone ranger sort of thing. That's a recipe for eventual collapse and failure. as far as this organizational structure of the church. That's part of why we have teams functioning. The fourth benefit, a stronger sense of ownership. And I did touch on that earlier. When you have people not only doing ministry, but they're involved in the decision making and all, that just multiplies the likelihood that they're going to feel like this is their ministry, because they're involved in more than just carrying it out. They're involved in shaping it as well. And then ultimately increased efficiency. So there's multiple benefits, that come with all of this. Now, let me just kind of say this as I kind of wrap this up. First of all, I just want to thank everyone that is actively involved in a ministry or ministries. There's nothing saying that you're limited to one ministry team. Back in the early days, I used to caution people about going beyond 3 ministries. Sometimes you can, certain ministries are pretty isolated in a certain time frame, and so you can do multiple ministries without them overlapping in a major detrimental way. But one ministry, certain ministries, it can be pretty time consuming, but for a lot of the different ministries, you could actually be a part of a couple of ministries without that being a real hardship, and perhaps even a third. But I'm thankful for all of you that are engaged, and to a large part, as I'm looking through the room here, I'm seeing people that are engaged. I just wanted you to understand the thinking behind all this, and in hopes too that this will get on eventually to the rest of the congregation. That's part of why we're taping this tonight, so that it'll be available, for others to have this understanding of what the philosophy is behind why we do it the way that we do it. But let me end with this. Our goal is that we want every adult, and I'm not leaving out teenagers, because we've had some teenagers sign up in ministries too. They if that's a fit, we encourage that. But our goal is that every adult is involved in ministry. And so every time, this time of year when we come into February, our goal isn't, I really hope we can get 40% of our people. The average church is, they've always said for the last 50 years at least, they've been saying that 20% of the people do 80% of the work. You've probably heard that. Sometimes the statistic I've heard is 15% of the people do 85% of the work. Well, our goal isn't, let's double that. Let's set 40% of the adult portion of our congregation to be involved in ministry. No, that's not our goal. Our goal is 100%. That's what we're shooting for, that everyone will be plugged in. And when they are, it will make an impact in the church. And that's an understatement. It will make an impact in this church and beyond this church. But the reality of the matter is, it will also make a difference in your life and in their lives. Because it is through ministry that we grow closer in our relationship with the Lord. Let me close with this verse. Romans 12:11. I've always liked this, and I like the way the NIV is worded here. It says, "Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor serving the Lord." I know there's more than one reason why people lose their edge spiritually. I know there's more than one reason why that happens. But one of the dominant reasons is because people are just sitting on their hands. They're not actively serving the Lord in any kind of capacity. And you will not thrive as a believer if you are not serving. And that's why all these scriptures that I touched on earlier say the things they say, and that's why Paul made the comment he made here. Paul's basically saying, don't lose your edge. Remain zealous for the Lord. Keep your spiritual fervor, knowing full well that you need to serve the Lord for that to happen. So that's our goal, is that we want every adult to be plugged into ministry.